All right, we're back. So after a conversation with Lieutenant General Hoig about more of the operational side of energy, we're going to shift focus to installation, energy, and infrastructure. So I'll let my panelists all introduce themselves in a minute because it is more fun to hear diversity of voices talk in perspective. But I wanted to set the scene a little bit for all of us as we continue in this conversation. So I've often said that energy security is mission success. As we think about the infrastructure that supports our ability to maintain everything from our national security and defense to the health, safety, and welfare of the communities that our defense installations call home and rely on to be able to support the mission sets, no matter what they are. I'm hoping people can still hear me. It is our critical infrastructure that we rely on, and there is nothing more critical than energy because it supports our mission sets, no matter how we define mission. And so I'm joined today by a group of panelists that bring a diversity of perspective and are representative of the ecosystem that actually makes sure that this works. And we are doing this in a contested environment. There are all sorts of different threats, whether it is age of infrastructure or bad actors that are coming after that critical resource and supply that we need to be able to assure our mission set, which is national energy security, no matter how you define that mission. And so with that, I'm going to turn to my panelists here to do very crisp introductions of who they are, what they do, and what is top of mind for them, and then leave the bulk of our time to get into a conversation. And I will, I'll start to my right and circle around.
Thank you, Meredith, and thank you to the Atlantic Council. My name is Jason Woodworth, and I'm the Commanding General for Marine Corps Installations Command. I'm responsible for the 25 Marine Corps installations across the world, and really appreciate this opportunity to talk about the nexus of defense and energy and how we can continue to improve our resilience as a partnership.
Thanks.
My name is Rebecca Isaacowicz, and I'm the Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Energy Resilience. In my role in the Office of the Secretary of Defense, we're thinking constantly about how do we shape guidance for energy policy? What does that look like across the military departments and their components? And as I think about energy, I really love what you said, Meredith. Excuse me. I also think about energy security with energy as a force multiplier. So how do we create that force multiplication most effectively?
Thanks.
Good morning, ma'am, and thank you, and thanks to the Atlantic Council for the opportunity to be here. My name is George Bresnahan. I'm the commander of DLA Energy, Defense Logistics Agency Energy, one of the 6 major subordinate commands running one of the supply chains for DLA. Class 3 bulk is my core mission. I'm responsible for managing to about 54.1 million barrels consistently throughout the year, which is both op stock and war reserve. But also, we play a significant role, as Ms. Berger mentioned, in installation energy, to include utilities privatization, microgrids, and we've started to get into a little bit of the small micro reactors. So mainly from an acquisition perspective, so look to get into that. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you to the council for having Duke here today. My name is Richard Donaldson. I'm the Chief Information Officer at Duke Energy, and why is an IT guy up here today? I'll tell you. Energy security, at least at the grid level, doesn't happen without software and information technology systems. And my core job is to make sure those systems run reliably so that we can maintain the energy security and the operational excellence that we have so far enjoyed. I'll couple that with obviously a keen focus on AI, not from delivering energy to AI, but how as a business can we use that to do those very things I just described even better, but without introducing new risk. So looking forward to discussing that a little more.
All right, hello everyone. My name's Alex Fitzsimmons. I'm the director of the U.S. Department of Energy's CSER office, Office of Cybersecurity, Energy Security, and Emergency Response at the U.S. Department of Energy. So our mission is to strengthen the security and resilience of the U.S. energy sector. We do this by partnering with the private sector. Over 80% of the U.S. energy system is privately owned. And we partner with them not as a regulator, but as a technical partner to help secure their IT systems and their OT systems. And so, you know, as you said, the reason for that is because energy security is foundational to, you know, everything we do. And, you know, as the President and the Secretary have said, energy is not just a critical sector of the economy, it is the critical sector of our economy that makes every other sector possible. And so that's why this is such an important discussion. I'm happy to be here today.
All right, thank you all. So reliable, resilient, redundant energy is the name of the game, and everybody here has a part. Because we're talking about our national security mission and the cross-section between defense and our commercial sector, Rebecca, I'm going to start with you. So as you sit and we see a lot of ebbs and flows, whether it's in our energy bills or in energy, other considerations, it is the policy that has stayed consistent, the priority, as Alex noted, that has stayed consistent. Can you talk about how you are approaching that from a defense perspective? Where are your guideposts as you're one of the leaders who's working on policy setting, prioritization, and how we bridge the different perspectives that everybody introduced?
That's a great question. So I think like Alex said, you know, we've really leaned into the administration's prioritization of energy as the sector. And that's ranged from our work with DLA and Transcom as we think about bulk fuel, you know, as we are moving fuel around the globe. It's an incredibly dangerous and expensive thing to do, and the last thing that we want to do is be reliant on partner, ally, adversary for access to that fuel. So, you know, domestic energy dominance is something that is a core component of our strategy as we think now, how do we center our interests and how do we center those interests within the department? I don't know that the department has always been its best champion for advocating why energy security is so important. We do a good job inside the Pentagon, but I don't know, we don't always do a great job of advocating for it outside the Pentagon. And now we're really thinking about how does our office, how does my office lean into that challenge and connect the operational energy demands with installation energy requirements so that we're centering the warfighter in all that we do so that they have a platform upon which there is a durable opportunity to execute their mission. Some ways that is, you know, it's looking like, that was terrible grammar, I'm so sorry, the way that it's starting to end up in kind of the storybook of the work that we're doing is, you know, as George mentioned, in microgrid deployment with SMRs at the core of the effort. You know, we're still 99% reliant on our commercial power providers and a civilian bulk system. So how do we then help support those partners in thinking before we get to the point of planning and execution in the strategic and tactical execution and understanding of what it is that the department needs? How do we lessen our reliance on a civilian bulk fuel supply because we've created better durability at home for which, you know, we can deploy fuel cells or lessen our dependence on a grid in an extreme weather event or in an emergency situation because we've installed storage systems. How are we thinking about deployment of natural gas to help bolster our midpoint step to a nuclear future? How do we create an order book of small modular reactors so that we can deploy them more rapidly, accurately, and in partnership with the Department of Energy? That it's looking like a multifaceted opportunity. The military departments have been extraordinary in their partnership as we think through the execution of this work, and we can't do at anything at OSD without them. So, how do we center their needs in that execution? It's going to always look like warfighter first in creating that domestic energy opportunity.
Thank you so much, and thank you for bringing up that important distinction. We talked about requirements a bit earlier. There is the Office of the Secretary of Defense where you are, which is really doing the overarching and policy setting, and you see a lot of execution in the service departments, and I think that's something that's important to emphasize as we think about working. You mentioned the Department of Energy, so naturally I'm going to turn to Alex here next and ask if you could address some
Excellent moderating.
Yeah, we're just having a chat here. So as we think about this in a broader context, in the what I'll call the national energy mission, I'm wondering if you could address and start to build upon some of your introductory comments. Talk about how you're thinking about physical security, cybersecurity. That emergency response comes up in some of the events that Rebecca just noted. Extreme weather, we've got aging infrastructure. CSER's put forward some funding and some other initiatives. Could you speak a little bit about that?
Sure, yeah, and I'll start by, outlining what I think we all know is an incredible energy challenge that we have, where we had years of flat load growth that have now been replaced by the potential to have to build another 100 gigawatts of power in 5 years, right, to meet the future demands for AI, as you mentioned, onshore manufacturing, right, to, win the AI race and be competitive in the 21st century. That's not possible without energy, and the energy systems, the generation, the transmission that we're building has to be, and we're installing on the grid, has to be deployed in a secure way, right? And that's what CSER focuses on, right? So when I think about how CSER partners with the private sector, the life cycle of our work every day, I mean, it starts with providing timely information to the private sector, right, that is then used to inform the R&D of world-class cyber and physical technologies, right, that we do, with the private sector, with DOE's 17 national laboratories, and then translating that information, that threat information, and those tools and technologies to the private sector to harden all of our energy systems, and then prepare that hardening, which involves everything from training to planning to tools and technology, right? It's not just a technology solution. A lot of it really is basic cyber hygiene, basic planning that goes on, and then being able, that hardening prepares you for when incidents, whether they be cyber or physical, occur, and they will occur, right? So when they do occur, what do you do about it? How do you respond? How do you recover? How do you operate through compromise? And so a couple of the programs that we're developing is, you think of everything left of boom, right? Everything you need to do to prepare for an incident, right? And I think one of the most important things that we need to be doing as we're deploying new technology to the grid is to make sure that we have cyber-informed engineering principles that are incorporated into the design of new technology so that we can engineer out the cyber vulnerabilities that we see, because we test a lot of this equipment. We procure a lot of grid components, we tear them apart, we look at the vulnerabilities, we know they're there, we know that they can be addressed. New technology has to be deployed with cyber-informed engineering principles, right? But then, because something's going to happen, it inevitably will. It's a question of when. So what do you do about it, right? And that's where the principle of how do you operate through compromise comes in. And that is as much a planning and a training exercise as it is a tools and technology exercise, right? And so, I mean, we partner with the whole sector, right? And not every energy company is created equal, right? You have very well-resourced companies like Duke that have very mature cybersecurity programs that have large teams, and we still partner with them, and that's important work. And then there are hundreds of small, rural, municipal energy companies out there that are also in strategically important locations for DoD, for our military, that do not have those same resources, but are still a threat, right? You look at the worldwide threat assessment. We know that nation-state actors, our foreign adversaries, are targeting our infrastructure, and not just the big companies. They're targeting everyone. And so a lot of the smaller energy companies that might not think they're going to be part of a future conflict will be, right? And fortunately, there's a lot of tools and planning you can do to like level up the IT and OT cyber game of some of these companies. You can solve 90% of the cyber problems you face by doing like basic cyber hygiene, right? Multi-factor authentication, network segmentation, things along those lines. But then even if you do all that, you still have to equip them with the training and the planning to operate through compromise. How do you triage your most critical systems? How do you prevent adversaries from crossing from the IT to the OT, right? How do you make sure that your key customers, right, the hospitals, the military facilities, all of the critical infrastructure that you support, how do you make sure that that can continue to operate, right? Because that's essential, and future conflicts are not just going to be in the physical domain, they will also be in the cyber domain, so we absolutely have to focus on that, and that's what CSER focuses on every day. That is our top priority.
All right, a CSER education. Thank you, Alex. So I'll turn to the Marine Corps, and a place where I know, General Woodruff, you have focused and with excellence demonstrated how to execute on some of the themes that we've heard on so far from the other panelists. And so we've got Duke here, so I'm going to save East Coast commentary for a little later in the conversation. But the West Coast, home to so many critical functions of the Marine Corps. You've got Pendleton, which is institutional in terms of readiness and training, not only for the Marine Corps, but for other services and the community as well. It is a critical asset with critical manpower in an energy-stressed environment. You've got Miramar just a little bit away, facing the same stresses in terms of energy, but also with the same importance in terms of readiness inside of a community that is very proud to support the Marine Corps and also the Navy, and then also where they are relying a lot on a grid that might be a little bit older.
Thank you, Meredith. Let me start by saying, in the past, we viewed our installations, our bases and stations as sanctuaries. And I would argue that across the Department of Defense, inside of the United States and across the world, everywhere we have a U.S. military presence is operational today, defending itself or themselves from bad actors out there. Some of those are located within a few short 100 miles of the headquarters of the PLA. And so we need to look at this different than the past. They are not sanctuaries. Bases are not sanctuaries anymore. We need to consider them as under threat each and every day. So what we do in partnership, and the best way to get after the partnership is with communities and industry in our allies in those areas in order to provide improving resilience. And so inside the Marine Corps, there are essentially 5 bases that have a very robust capability to provide resilience in the energy arena. Most of those have a microgrid of some sort, and many of you know exactly what a microgrid is, but pardon my very brief explanation of essentially it's a management of power capability. It is not necessarily backup generation, and it's different everywhere you go. But one of the most important things we look for in resilience is a backup power generation capability, and we have those at a couple of our facilities. They're mostly reliant on external support, whether that's DLA fuel, whether that's a power source off base, whether that's a landfill methane from the community in Albany, Georgia, and other places, or other resources that come from off the base. One of the things that Ms. Berger is talking specifically about is there's a effort underway in California to work closely with a energy partner to develop a really big universal power supply or backup battery, and we're talking in the major megawatt level. This opportunity would, in its partnership with the states, partnership with the community, and the energy partner, would create a backup generation capability for the entire airfield on the base of Camp Pendleton for up to 18 hours. So if you think about that, if we lost complete power from out from the grid, or the microgrid sectors failed or something, we could provide airfield operations for up to 18 hours just on a really big battery. For the partner can sell the power that's in the battery down to a certain level and never go below that certain level that allows for that capacity to be on hand when called upon. So really neat capability. We're working on that across the board. And I do want to also mention small modular reactors. We're hugely interested in this. This is a great capability. As a former commander of Camp Pendleton, having a nuclear site on base is a real challenge. I mentioned earlier to Mr. Stevenson about what are we going to do with the spent fuel. I think that's something we need to solve really carefully as a nation. But small modular reactors, I think, are a great potential resource to partner in the same kind of way on our facilities and installations. So thank you for the time.
All right, thank you. And so in order to make this all happen at the Department of Defense, it takes some really difficult acquisition. And so you mentioned bulk fuel in your opening comments, but you're in the business of bulk energy, as it turns out, whether we're talking about acquisition of fuel or acquisition of energy writ large for installations, to include incorporating some of that technology, that purchase sheet that Rebecca dreams of sharing with everybody to facilitate our collective advance. So I was wondering if you could talk just a little bit about what it looks like to do such large-scale acquisition in support of a mission set that has to be cognizant of a almost entire reliance on external energy suppliers like Duke, but also where we're looking to create storage, that redundancy, that reliability, and how you are looking at this from the acquisition programming process. And I'd encourage you, because we're lucky enough to have Duke here with us, there is a partnership between the Department of Defense and Duke Energy for exactly what everybody is talking about, the long-term game of how do you make sure that you are planning, creating redundancy and reliability. And I was hoping that you could also specifically address the way the partnership works from the Department of Defense. And heads up, Richard, I'm going to ask you the same thing on the other end.
I will try. So one, I think I owed you one more thing on my intro, which was what keeps me up at night from an energy perspective, and really some of these things are connected, but from a it's really in a conflict. It's how to get bulk fuel to the point of need, and so I don't think we have a production problem across bulk fuel, but I think I have a capacity and posture issue forward. So I just wanted to circle back to that. And I just touch on a couple things. So when we talk about installation, installation energy and resilience and all those things, DLA Energy is really what we bring to the table in terms of that is the acquisition piece. I have a team of experts that understand how to operate in that space and how to contract and acquire installation energy. And so, and also, we bring to the table the authorities to do contracts that are, 20, 25, 30 years long, right? And so, because that's how our partners on the commercial side, that's how they prefer to do business. And so we bring that ability as well. So some of the things that we've done in the recent past, of course, we're getting into the microgrids, and one great example of that is we helped with the purchase of a microgrid out at Fort Cavazos in the big snowstorm that happened a few years ago out there. Due to that, and this comes straight to the resilience issue, while everybody else lost power, Fort Cavazos was still up on power, right? So it's a great use case when you're thinking about, or a great example, and you're thinking about what does that bring to the table. So we are. We definitely are into that, but we react to requirements. I just wanted to point that out. I work very closely with Dazdia Zakowicz, and she's blowing up my phone when requirements come, no matter what it is. And so, so really we work closely with the services as well as the COCOMs to provide that expertise when it comes to the bulk energy, bulk fuel, installation energy. Another area where we have seen great strides is utilities privatization. And so we've gotten into that. And so we're not building any new bases. All of our bases are aging, and the infrastructure on those bases are aging. And so with the Army, probably about 20 years ago, we partnered with the Army for utilities privatization. And what we saw was a dramatic increase in the health of our infrastructure, our energy infrastructure on those bases. As a result of that, the Navy has said, hey, we would like to partner with you on that. And so we're looking at Norfolk Navy Shipyard, which is incredibly important to bring that up to speed. We know that the White House has put great importance on shipbuilding. We know that we need that in our country, so our ability to help in that area, or at least provide that expertise, is we're looking forward to that. I also want to touch on the SMR. And so, again, we don't bring necessarily the technical expertise, but we do bring that acquisition expertise, and this is where Dazdia Zakowicz and I have spent a lot of time. So we got asked a few years ago with the Air Force to do the acquisition up at Eielson for the SMR for the Air Force. And it's been a long haul, but we got to the point where we just issued the NOIDA, the intent to award, and we're in that process now, which once, so we've issued that. And so the next step is for us to work with DOE on getting through the 2 to 4 year process of that regulation. So now we can start to draw power from that. And we're excited about that. So those are some of the things that we're doing on the installation side. I just wanted to touch on the security side and what energy does on that in terms of bulk fuel. And so one of the we obviously bring that acquisition expertise to the table on the bulk fuel side, but what we also bring is the ability to purchase with the Defense Working Capital Fund. And I won't get too deep into that, but what that does is that allows us, that gives us great capability to continue to purchase. But the real thing is, out of that, when we sell to the services, we're able to use a nice chunk of that money for infrastructure, sustainment, reutilization, and restoration, and modernization, which is critical. And we think about it forward, but as the Secretary has put emphasis on the NORTHCOM AOR, the U.S., we have looked now and said, hey, we need to make sure that our installations and our not only the energy but the fuel facilities are ready, because as you mentioned, General, they're no longer sanctuaries, right? So they have to be ready. And so we saw this with the Southern Border Operations. And so that's just another example of where we didn't ever expect to have to use fuel that way in the States, but we're using it now. And so lastly, as we turn it over to Duke Energy, yes, great partnership with Duke and several other power companies along the East Coast, really across the U.S. And I can't emphasize how critical those partnerships are, because we don't generate power the services don't generate power. We rely on our partners in the commercial industry to do that for us, and so it's critical. Yeah. Thank you.
And I'm going to take moderator's privilege here and ask you to just dig in a little bit deeper on the partnership, because this is such a nice vignette of some of the specifics of how it works. And thank you for acknowledging that there are partnerships among several energy companies, because we can't do it. I haven't lost my we yet. The U.S., as we pursue our energy security mission, can't do it if it's not in partnership and with all of those benefits. But as we look at the Carolinas, where Duke is present, really major installations across the military services, and was wondering if you might be able to pull out just a couple of pieces, and then Richard, I'll ask you to talk about it from the utility side of the value that those types of partners bring when we talk about energy security.
Yeah, so with the partnerships, we're going to get, the most up-to-date and modern, I guess, delivery of that energy. Also, as our commercial partners transition to other forms of energy, we're going to be able to take advantage of that, which is going to provide that resilience for us. And then, again, I think we're going to be able to take advantage of that infrastructure or the improvement to infrastructure as we partner with the commercial industry. I do think that that resilience that we need in a time of whether it's conflict or just natural disaster, our partners in the commercial side will be able to deliver that to us. So I just think that. The other thing I would say too is in these partnerships, I think that we're able to leverage, leverage some of the land that we have and the partnerships with the commercial industry and where we may put and have done in the past other forms of alternative energy. And so it's a win-win for everybody as they are able to leverage that, say from a solar perspective, and we're able to take advantage of that as well. So I think hopefully that answers a little bit.
That is helpful. Thank you for the additional comments. And so, Richard, I'll turn to you as a partner and energy provider. You've got a pretty demanding customer here in the Department of Defense, but with a critical mission, and it is what we would call a no-fail mission. We're going to need that energy. And so I was hoping that you would be able to comment a little bit, picking up on the partnership between Duke and DoD to really illustrate what it means to be a partner on the other side. How are you providing energy? What is your makeup look like? How are you putting forth that resilience that is in demand and is the requirement for the mission set? But you're also providing for a community in an environment where, as everybody has noted, there are so many demands on the grid and that requirement for energy. We need to be sure that we're doing it safely, securely, and you are part of that mission assurance in that respect. And then we're also bringing forth new technology. Several of your co-panelists commented on as nuclear comes into our mix, but also as we look at different types of renewable energy, alternative energy sources. I would love to hear how Duke is thinking about this complex environment. No pressure, we're counting on you.
We're going to run out of time, so there is no pressure. No, I wanted to thank you for the kind words. I really appreciate those. Maybe start with just good old-fashioned resiliency, if I could, and I heard a couple references to storms. So we serve 8.5 million customers on the electric side, and we are both proud and honored to serve our U.S. military, especially in the Carolinas where we have a number of installations. Great partnership comes with great expectations, and if I use the example of storms, we are storm hardened to say the least. We serve in Hurricane Alley, and every year around this time we start counting up the number of storms we think we're going to get and talk about how they're going to be more severe than the year before. And we haven't been doing this for 10 years. We've been doing this for 100 years. And so when I think about the activities around both hardening our infrastructure to prepare for those storms, but then also how we're going to respond to the infrastructure damage, to outages, et cetera, for the 8.5 million customers, but also for some of our more critical customers, it does come back to something you said. Some of it is good hygiene, right? It's practicing, drilling, having your procedures. Yes, AI is going to help. It's not an easy button, at least not yet. And we do have technology ingrained in just about everything we do when we operate the grid. But those procedures are what allow us to do a couple of things. One is look at an all of the above strategy with our generation. So how are we not relying on one fuel type, one generation site, one generation source when we're serving our customers? But also, how are we looking to make investments in the wires so that we can flow the electrons around in a bidirectional way. And that can come down to simple things like self-healing networks, right? So if I lose you as a customer, I don't have to lose the whole circuit. I can just isolate you and keep everybody up and running. We've gotten very good at responding and getting people's power back on. Clearly, when we're restoring power, we have a prioritization framework that we drill against. Think about certainly the military, hospitals, if you will. We want to get those back online as quickly as possible. They are critical, and that is critical infrastructure. But as I look forward into our what we're entering in for the utilities is this era of growth that you referenced, and some of us are thinking, we haven't seen this since the 60s, right? And so when you start talking about how are we going to build out new nuclear generation, things that don't go online in 2 years, how are we going to prioritize not just what we do, but where we do it when it comes to investing in capacity on our grid and getting the transmission lines need to be? I think when I start thinking about those types of conversations and you look at a partnership like we have with the military, it offers you a lot of two things. One is the opportunity to be strategic, and second is the opportunity to plan. So we've got long horizons. The military, like us, is while certainly very responsive in the moment, is comfortable with those long-term planning horizons, and it gives us the chance to look at, well, where would a microgrid be the right answer? Where would leveraging some of the natural resources like land that the military has access to give us an opportunity to do something different, whether that be batteries, solar, but also making sure that we're designing the grid and the infrastructure around that to meet those demands. And so if I could go back to AI for a minute and then I'll close out, I think the really exciting thing for us is the fact that, especially in the Southeast, we're looking at being a prime option for some of these data centers to be sited, and those are bringing on loads the likes of which we've never seen. Well, but we have to lead with resiliency and reliability, and we have to keep power flowing to everybody's meter, right? While we bring on something that, I've heard in some of the previous panels, we're bringing on data centers the size of large cities in terms of power intake. And so that is a very careful calculation. I look forward to AI especially, and really just data and some of the systems we have playing a major part in how we serve that load, but it has to be It has to be in addition to the loads we're serving today and keeping our customers satisfied and reliable and secure with their energy supply.
All right, thank you. And it is that security that's going to be so critically important. And so we have covered a lot of ground here in our conversation and wanted to give everyone the chance to close. I always like optimism, so that is a good place to land. We've got a big task ahead. Each of you is playing a critical role in the ecosystem. And I will go in the same order so that, Richard, you can catch your breath for a second. But I'd like to ask everybody to give a closing thought on what they hope to achieve over the course of the next, I'm going to put it at 3 years, because 1 year is too short for the stuff that we're talking about, but 3 years gives us a mark to hit to advance energy security as we are talking about it in both the national security sense and also in the broader sense of our energy mission across the United States to create and maintain dominance no matter what we are doing. So I'm going to start with Rebecca and then just ask everybody to keep going in the order that you went.
Okay. Thanks, Meredith. So over the next 3 years, I would really love to consider how we can better use the department's depth and breadth to bring change to bear. We haven't had a well-articulated and consolidated strategy, and thinking about how do we bring all of these disparate pieces together, from operational energy intent to installation energy readiness, is going to be increasingly more critical as we think about hardening our grid, creating better durability. And I think that we're ready for it. I think all the pieces are there, and just laying them out in a roadmap is going to be ever more important. So I'm looking forward to leaning into that and seeing all of our needs come to fruition. Thank you.
Yeah, as I mentioned before, the threat is clear. We know that nation-state actors are pre-positioned inside our networks already. They are already inside the wire. And so the question is what we do about it. And I think the single most important thing that we can be doing over the next 2 years, you look at the worldwide threat assessment, I mentioned 2027 being a critical year. Between now and 2027, ensure that every critical energy infrastructure facility that supports the DoD and national security mission is secure in the next 2 years.
So Alex beat your timeline, which puts the pressure on me. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to deliver. But I think a couple of things are critically important is to make sure we are using all of the congressionally authorized capability to partner with industry, to ask the services to work together, to ask policy, to ask Congress for more authority to work with industry partners to expand that capability, I think would be really critically important right now. It would be ideal to be able to say that all of the off-installation energy generation facilities are secure. I think that how we partner and help in that process is something that we need to explore more, and there's lots of opportunity there. So thanks for the opportunity.
Okay, I would love in the next 3 years. I think getting after the cyber piece is going to be critical. I would love to see what we do with that, and it plays a huge role in our supply chain. But really, I would love to see it mandatory for DLA Energy to be responsible for installation energy, the acquisition of installation energy for all of the services, and not because that does anything for us, but I think it would be best for DoD if we brought our expertise to bear. Right now, it's not mandatory for us to do that, and so the services have a choice. Thanks.
I would offer there's a little bit of a slippery slope there, right? It's the centralization of authority that becomes a bureaucratic nightmare. So I just, we need to be a little bit careful. I get your point, George, and I am supportive in principle. I think being able to purchase agreements at a higher level and consolidate those into one agreement is helpful. But the ability to maneuver as a service, as you know, I'm curious. I'm going to ask Admiral Gray when I get back to my office from CNIC what he thinks about your comment.
Yeah, he's coming over too. He's seen the light. But I understand. I do understand that. I just think we bring a certain level of expertise that could help. That's the only reason. And if it didn't work, then that's fine.
If anybody wonders what I did at the Pentagon in my last job, this is a lot of how our days went, so you're getting the real insights here. And then Richard.
Yeah, I get to close after that. Thank you. I'll stick with my lane in technology, and so I'll just say two things around AI. One is I think that the threats that are posed from an energy security perspective just create a very ripe playing field for leveraging AI to protect against those threats. So really leaning into that. But then also, I think that how we leverage AI across a business like Duke Energy in a way that is safe and secure and protects the data and protects the system that we're operating is probably number 1 or 2 on my list right now. There's this desire to go fast and the desire to get value very quickly, and I need to make sure we do that in a way that, again, makes things better and doesn't introduce new risk.
Thank you so much, and thank you to all of you for allowing us to spend time here in the ecosystem where all of the circles overlap and have some insight and conversation about what everyone is thinking about when it comes to energy security. It is no single person, entity, or institution's mission, and if we are not thinking about how to work together, share the right information, preserve security, anticipate, mitigate, eliminate before we have to respond, then we are not doing our best in support of what is everybody's shared mission, health, safety, welfare, and security for the nation. So thank you for what you all do to think about that every day, for keeping a healthy conversation, collaboration, and tension about where the authority, accountability, and responsibility lies so that we are never leaving anyone alone, isolated, without the resources that they need, so that we can make sure that we stay on task and on target. So thank you all very much.